2007, I was a monk for 7 days in Thailand. We lived in the temple, and then every morning we'd walk a block with a bowl and a lid, and then people would be on the side of the road with giving offerings. And if we didn't get any offerings, we didn't eat that day.
G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Butterfield Effect. My name's Isaac Butterfield and we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for 2020. The biggest year in podcasting history, I reckon. Probably, who knows? I reckon. Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest podcast in Australia right now. If you're not a part of it, if you haven't subscribed, wake up to yourself. If you haven't head over to bloody iTunes and Spotify, go and check it out there, subscribe, like, do whatever you've got to do. Give it a rating because we've got a 5-star rating because it's the best podcast in Australia. And today is no exception. For our first podcast of the year, ladies and gentlemen, we are chatting to an absolute legend of Australian sport, the Muay Thai God himself, forged from the very steel that grows in the ground in Thailand. I don't know, but he's an absolute legend, a very, very nice guy. The guy that just defeated Anthony the Man Mundane in the ring for his final fight, and now upon retirement, he has stepped up the game and come to the biggest moment of his life, this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome in my best boxing announcer's voice, John Wayne Parr.
I need a visa to get into the States. I booked Joe, everyone was done.
Oh, really?
We're going to go January 6th, January 10th. Fucking new beauty. And then I need a visa to get into America. And then first available appointment wasn't until February 6th. And I had to do the old, I'm so sorry, Joe, can we please defer? And then we're going to go February, and then my boy got a fight 1FC.
Oh, beautiful,
so
yeah.
now he's fighting 28th of February, so now I've got to postpone to March. It's like,
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the process like booking with Joe? Is it like a fuck around, or is it because he's got them amazing people on it?
Just make sure you give us a heads up first, and so we're going to make sure we don't go. So I'm pretty busy, but we'll put you in.
How good's that?
Yeah,
That's so good, man.
So good.
That's so good.
Because I've been pestering for a year because of the 99 wins.
Yes.
Like, when I get 100, can I come on? He's like, yeah, of course. And then I had one in Budapest, and then didn't go I should have won, but didn't go my way. The next day he's like, so when are we doing the podcast? Unfortunately, I got fucking rorted. Who cares? Just come anyway.
Yeah.
I want to sort of save it so it's special. And then I had the next one, and fucking got ripped again. He's like, when do it? It's And then after I retired, and then he shared that photo too. The next day he shared the post, and then I hit him up, hey, now that I'm done, come back on and celebrate the career. I said, fucking oath, yeah, let's do it. So now it's just work out the date now. So
I wonder if you could sit down and watch some of the old fights with him. He always does like the fight companions and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's very funny with the YouTube now because he doesn't want to get kicked off YouTube either, so he has to play it safe, He does a lot of when you watch the video, he does a lot of the audio and little clip that disappears, little clip that disappears.
Because I sometimes when I watch it, I'll be like, I want to fucking see it.
Yeah, you can't. You just can't show anything.
I didn't know that.
There's so many copyright laws. And if someone puts a complaint in that you've shown their footage without it's just dumb.
Man, it happened to me. That's what happened with TikTok.
Yeah.
So I made a TikTok video, went up, and then some random kid who I showed on there, claimed it for copyright.
Oh, no.
Like a 15-year-old kid. He goes, and so the whole video comes down for 20 days. Why? It was
going well as well.
It was going well. I had like 400,000 views in a day or 2 days, and I had to go back in and say to YouTube, listen, this is ridiculous. And then because YouTube's a massive company, they've got to go back through everything and say, okay, Isaac's right, let's put it back up. All of a sudden, that's 20 days. So that peak period where the video comes out, it's new, everyone wants to watch it, it's gone.
Yeah.
So, and the problem with that is that was one of my ad videos. So I had an ad at the start, and they pay me per 1,000 views. So all of a sudden, that's affecting my bottom line, and it's just a fucking. So it's the same with Joe. He's not getting the views on it because it's getting taken down by fucking idiots.
Yeah.
So YouTube really needs to sort that out. And I think it's something they're getting better at, but it's still...
Especially TikTok, though, because TikTok's based on fucking copying other people's shit anyway. It's the worst. Like, they're literally using other people's music or copying someone else's voiceover or like...
Hey, can you hear Zach on the video? Good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Zach's off camera. He's somewhere over there. Have you got a camera on him? Oh, you got a camera on him. Holy shit.
Hey, YouTube.
Beautiful. We're here with John Wayne Parr. Hello, brother.
Is it?
We're on.
We're on.
We're on, brother.
Yes.
We're back. What's happening? How you doing?
Mate.
It's great to see you again.
It's good seeing you.
I haven't seen you since I was in your beautiful gym up there. And what suburb is it? It's
Burleigh Heads.
Burleigh Heads, that's the one. And beautiful beard, Burleigh Big Head. Should sponsor the show. No carbs, keto friendly.
Yeah.
That's fucking right. All right, that's a free plug. Send me a carton. Now, mate, what's happening? How you going? You've just come off an absolute flogging of Anthony Mundane. How exciting? How was that?
It was amazing. So it was so cool. It's so surreal. Even now, a couple of months after the fight, a photo will pop up, and it just still to this day, it's like, how did that happen? It's like, because I watched the bloke for 20 years, and not once in that time did I think I'm going to fight that guy one day. It's never. And then now that it's come and gone, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And then I was saying to the other boys before, he was so nice. He was such a gentleman, even though all the stuff that you've seen in the last 20 years, and you have this personal sort of idea of what you're going to deal with. And then when you fight him, it's like, so he was a gentleman.
Yeah.
And not one bad word was said the whole time. The only funny thing was we've done the whole press conference, we've done the fight, we've done everything. And then after the fight, I thought, I'm going to shoot him a private message just to thank him for the opportunity, mate. I thought it was a great fight. I think the crowd got their money's worth. What an experience. I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Brothers for life. When you fight someone, you got a bond forever. And then he come around and he said, congratulations. In fact, I watched the fight for the first time last night myself, and tell you what, I still think I won. I think I won. I was like, there he is.
Wow.
So, you couldn't fight a Mundane without some sort of controversy somewhere. So, but besides that, he was at the end of it. He goes, congratulations, you deserve it. It was a great fight. So
yeah,
he was a proper. I think maybe the Jeff Horn fight might have humbled him a little bit. Who knows? When you get knocked out in 90 seconds, it tends to humble you a little bit. But yeah, he was really cool. And then the fight was great. He sort of rocked me a little bit round 3. To his credit, he had a massive leaping left hook and a good right uppercut. Fast jab, not a powerful jab, but very fast. And yeah, I'm honored to not only share the ring with him, but to get the victory is like a dream come true.
Absolutely. And how did he rank amongst the other competitors you fought against?
He's like I was saying before, he's got those good qualities and those the things that he's good at. He's really good at.
Yeah.
And I researched him leading up to the fight, and he had one fight a year in the last 3 or 4 years. And then if you take away the Horn fight, which only lasted 90 seconds, you can't really call. So it was really only one fight in the last 2 years. So I knew if I got fit, you can do everything you want in the gym, but it's hard to maintain fight fitness. You can have gym fitness, but it's hard to have fight fitness unless you're fighting regularly. And then I'd just come off that fight in Japan only 3 months prior, so I knew that I was good to go. And I knew I applied pressure. Eventually, I'd wear him down, and that's how the fight prevailed. He shone a little bit round 3 when he hurt me a little bit, but the rest of the time I just pressured him against the ropes where he just sort of sit down and just wait to sort of get beat up.
Do you think it was your fitness that got you over the end?
Definitely.
Because you train non-stop.
Yeah.
Every time I go anywhere near the Gold Coast, I see you running. It doesn't matter how close we are to Burleigh, you're running somewhere, shirt off, ripping.
Got a great story.
What do you got?
So after the fight, I had to announce my retirement. I need a hip replacement. I've been really struggling with my hip. So I went and seen my surgeon. Got an updated MRI 7 weeks out from the fight. And then they do the report and they do everything. And then they have a meeting. And he calls me in and he said, look, we've got the report and you have what's known as bone edema. Your femur head and your femur neck is, the bone marrow is swelling. So it's pushing from the inside out against the bone. So we suggest that you no more running between now and the fight. It's like, I'm fighting 10 rounds and I'm fighting Anthony Mundane. And I really need to run, so it'll be right. And he goes, no, you don't understand. There's life after fighting. I'm thinking, what? And not really. There's only fighting. The only thing in life that matters is fighting. So, and I didn't want to experiment with swimming or didn't want to bike ride just in case. What happens if I get to round 6 and I'm super tired and it didn't work? Now's not a good time to be experimenting when you're fighting Anthony Mundane.
Absolutely. Experimenting after X amount of fights, hundreds of fights.
Sure. So I know what I have to do to get into peak physical condition. So I went to Dr. Google. I've got this bone marrow edema, my bone marrow is swelling. Surely it can't be that bad. Plug in the symptoms. And then Dr. Google comes back with sometimes with the bone-on-bone action, the bone marrow can mutate into leukemia.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So for 7 weeks, every single day, I'm thinking, I hope I don't get leukemia today.
Oh, wow.
That's going to really, the win will be amazing. but the leukemia sounds terrible. And then the surgeon saying also that the bone is quite brittle, so there's a chance your femur head or your neck might either splinter or snap at the head while you're doing your morning run. So I'm thinking, do I take a mobile phone with me in case I'm around the headland and my femur snaps and I'm crawling along the path trying to get back to the gym. Between the femur head snapping and the leukemia, I'm thinking, if I win this fight, what a story. Yeah. So it's so cool to say, I hope I don't have leukemia, but besides that, it didn't break, it didn't snap, and I won. So it's cool.
Did you talk about that after the fight with many people in the media?
No, mate, not many people know.
What a scoop. But honestly, that's incredible to receive that news, yet still go through and continue with your road runs.
So what happens, while I was running and training, it was painful, but at the same time, you get through it. And then about 10 minutes after I cool down, I'd be sitting at dinner or just on wherever, and then you just get these waves of pain, and then
like nerve pain,
bone pain,
really?
Bone pain and joint pain. It's very, and then it affects your sleeping. Sometimes you wake up and then you can't get back to sleep because the pain's just so bad. And then they got to the stage where the pain was taking away my enjoyment of training. Like my life revolves about, and I love training, I love fighting, but when this is overriding it, where it's just like. Because I train, I cool down, I get 4 or 5 hours of just craziness, and just as the pain starts subsiding, it's time to train again. So it's just this circle of just agony. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to stop, because once I stop, I'm done.
What causes it? Is it road runs? Is it a combination, wear and tear? Is it constantly moving?
Degenerative, over a 30-year career of kicking. I don't think the hip's supposed to do the roundhouse motion. And the way that I throw my knees on a circular motion as well. So there is quite a lot of trauma that's going on there per session times 30 years.
And I know you've seen me throw kicks and they're pretty deadly. But when you do throw a kick, sometimes if you haven't warmed up, it's quite painful. Or at the very least, in the hip, if you haven't warmed up, you can't kick as high or with as much power. So you would think that it does cause a lot of issues in that hip region.
And plus the jarring, I'm guessing as well, because you got that circle motion, so it's got that constant turning, and then with the jar as well, of making contact. And then without blowing, I kick rather hard too. So a lot of people don't know how to block off their left leg, so everyone attacks the legs, so their lead leg's nice and light. But not many people know how to block off the left. So being from the Thai style, I really worked on my left more than my right because I wanted to have that advantage. And then once my left got stronger than my right, then it was a 90 to 10. I'd throw that more than the other one. So it won me my fights, but now it's got the stage where it's so painful. And then I think it's probably hereditary too, because my mum, my uncle, my auntie, they've all had hip operations and replacements. So I think I just sped up the process being as active as I was for the last 30 years. So.
Sure. And you're still a young bloke. You still need to get plenty of time out of those hips. Yeah. Is that from the doctor's point of view, is that something you can recover from after the operation?
Depending on how severe it is. So Mundane had the same operation. I read about him about maybe 5 or 6 years ago that he had. It's not a replacement so much. It's called a resurface, where they cap the top of the femur head. And it's a lot bigger joint than the normal femur, the normal replacement. And then while you're still young and active, you can still run, still do sport, still do everything. And then down the road when it's time, they just cut it off at the neck and then they put the new stem in. But for now, hopefully, if I can get that long, because my life revolves around training and teaching, and if I can't teach, I'm sort of screwed.
Yeah. How do you feel now that you're retired?
Bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that like after going, particularly with yourself, you go camp to camp to camp.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of, there's this question.
I was saying to someone the other day, because I'm so used to fighting like legitimate killers. So let's say I'm fighting a Yod Singlai or a Boar Cow or a Zambides. So for 10 weeks, every night you lay in bed before sleep and you think, all right, so my game plan is going to be this, I'm going to work on that, he's really good at that. And you've got this constant battle of, hey, you're going to approach every single fight. And then like you were saying, that fight finishes and then you have a week off and the next one. So you've got that constant anxiety and apprehension and it's just fun to have.
You're going to war.
Yeah. It's just, and it's good to have that little bit of nerves or anything else. And then all of a sudden when it's like null and void, there's just nothing there. So
It's weird. Well, even with stand-up, you have a big rush. You get off the stage, you meet everyone, and then you're back at the hotel. And I usually stay with Zach, and we're just like, what do we do now? Smash some Maccas and go to bed. But it must be a very different like sort of situation for yourself now, walking into this like the rest of your life, the life after fighting that you spoke about.
And the daunting part is my last working job was 1995. I was working as a bartender, and then I haven't worked since for 25 years, I guess. Yeah, holy shit.
And I mean, obviously you've got a lot on.
That's a long bloody time.
You've got your fighters, your daughter Jazzy's still killing it. How's she going?
Super cool. She's doing really well. And then my little guy, Jazzy's boyfriend, he's got his first contract with One Championship.
Wow.
So he fights in Singapore on the 28th of February for the One Championship world title.
What's his name?
His name's Rocky Ogden, but he's going to fight a gentleman called Sam A, who's had 400 plus fights, and Lockie's had like 35. So he's exactly the same as me. When I was his age, I was doing the same thing. I was fighting the Thais, 20 fights, fighting Thais with 300 fights. It's very daunting, but if Rocky can overcome such a massive challenge, even if he doesn't win, Lockie's he can fight hard and leave an impression on people's eyes that, okay, this kid, he's only 20 years old, he's got his whole life career, he's got his whole career. But if he lands that one big one, because they're fighting in the cage with MMA gloves on, similar to my CMT style. So, and Rocky punches hard too. So with those little gloves, if he can land, he can shock the world.
Well, that's the thing about it. Any sport with, especially 6-ounce gloves, 4-ounce gloves. You can hit anyone, and it can change the course of your career.
Yes.
And I mean, what's it like walking into a cage, a ring with someone who is a warrior who's fought 300 fights and they are at the same age level as you, and you look at them and you go, this guy is a legit killer, he's a professional. What does that do to your confidence moving into that?
Yeah, it's quite daunting. Back when I was fighting my first like A class and staying around there, I get like I got Eminem. I get the diarrhea and I get the mum spaghetti. And then like in that bed when you're laying there going, if I do this, he'll do that, and if I do this, he kicks so hard, and just having that. And then usually the fight starts, and then majority of the time it's not anything like you had in your head, and then they feel pain and they get tired, and you can feel that was a fight going on. But sometimes you do meet that guy. I fought a guy whose name was Yotsinglai, and he's currently like one of the pound for pound guys ever. We ended up fighting 3 times, and the first time I was overconfident. He was only 19. It was his first fight overseas. And then usually I'm quite, my hands are my advantage. So I thought I'd just give him the old 1-2s. So it was the first time I'd throw 4 punches, and he'd go slip, under, and he'd come back and hit me with an elbow. That was surely a fluke. So I'm standing there going, well, that sucks. I try again, and then miss, boom again. And then the first time we fought, he faked the front kick, so I push it out of the way, and he came over the top and hit me in the head with a perfect neck kick, and then dropped me for an 8 count. And the sensation was like 6 blokes had picked him up both sides, just slam into the canvas. And as I'm laying there watching the lights do this, it's like, what the hell was that? And then ended up finishing the fight, went the full 5 rounds, but it wasn't until I watched the replay that I noticed how I fought and my after-fight speech. I didn't remember saying my after-fight speech. I was like hearing words for the first time going, why would I say that for? But I fought him again in Singapore, and he beat me again, knocked me down round 1, knocked me round 2. Went the distance again. And then about a year or so later, I got the opportunity to rematch him for the 3rd time. And I remember walking to the ring just thinking, I'm going to hospital. There's no way I'm getting paid a lot of money, so that compensates me going to hospital, but I'm still going to hospital. And I won. Somehow or other I won. So it was a tough fight. I got cut another 2 more cuts, another one through my eyebrow, another one through my cheek. But from the smallest of margins, I faced my adversity and then got the win. So it made it a little more better just knowing that not only the win, but I faced my fears, and even as much as I didn't want to do it, I forced myself to do it, and then to come out on top, it was like, you can achieve what you set your mind to sometimes.
It must be a crazy experience, like walking into a fight knowing that you're going to end up in hospital.
Yeah.
Like when I was playing footy, it was like, oh, geez, I hope I don't get hurt. I hope I don't get in a fight. I hope I don't break something or get cut or whatever.
Yep.
Going into a fight, you know that it's going to happen without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
How do you mentally prepare?
Even when you win.
Even when you win, yeah. You're still battered, bruised. You can't see the next day.
Yeah.
Like how do you prepare yourself for that? Is it just time doing it over and over again?
It's definitely experience and money. If it's good money, it's like, oh, well, I'm willing to go to hospital or get stitched up or whatever I have to do to know that my family's going to be, we've got enough money for rent for the next couple of months, or we've got food on the table, or we can live comfortably for the next few months. I'm willing to put myself through whatever just so we can live nice.
What made you do it in the start? You're 13 fights in and you go over to Thailand.
Yeah.
And there's no money.
No money.
But did you see that as an opportunity for yourself to go, okay, this is how I create this future house for my future family, the ones I don't even know yet. You know, this is the way I have a job.
Yes. At 19, the opportunity arose, and I never went in there with the expectations of being rich, but I just wanted to have the opportunity to be somebody. I wanted to be famous. I wanted people to look at me going, he's a good fighter. And I've said this multiple times, and people will probably hear me saying, but we only have this time frame to be on this planet. So if I can leave a little bit of a footprint, and when I pass and have my kids tell their kids, your grandpa was a good multiple world champion, and just to have that little bit of a legacy. So even young kids, when they're thinking about going on the sport, and if they go into YouTube and I can be that one that inspires that kid to follow their dream. Like he fought the Thais, he beat the Thais. Well, if he can do it, I can do it.
A lot of people, when you talk about, okay, I want to be famous or I want to have a legacy, a lot of people in the public spotlight go, they never touch on that. They never go, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. But you know, that's a lot of the drive for a lot of people. They want to be remembered.
Yeah,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a real motivating factor for a lot of people who are successful.
Yeah.
What do you think about the rise of combat sports? Because over the last, let's say 20 years, it has just gone from strength to strength.
Yes.
I mean, obviously with the UFC, ONE FC, Bellator, the big names, and still boxing with Tyson Fury, these type of guys, it just seems to be taking over. Maybe it's just because that's what I watch. I'm not too sure if that's what is actually happening in the world, but that from my point of view, it seems like combat sports is everything at the moment.
Oh yeah, with the rise of UFC, the UFC's definitely helped promote martial arts in general. Not just MMA, but it's also getting people through the door for the jiu-jitsu classes, the Muay Thai classes, as people are specialised in different things. And it's just putting it into lounge rooms where a majority of people wouldn't have seen it before. And I really like what UFC is doing to promote the fighter as well. So you get to know what kind of car they drive, how many pets they have.
Absolutely.
Who they're going out with, their persona outside of the ring. Because when you see them fight, they might be fantastic, but then you see their personal life.
This bloke's a fuck with.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dick.
Man, I've said this for years about the NRL in Australia, the rugby league. Like, they just handle their players terribly. Yeah. They never, even little things on Instagram, right? The NRL will post a photo of a player scoring a try and they won't even tag their profile.
Oh, geez.
Why wouldn't you try and boost your player? Yeah. There's no behind the scenes stuff. That's starting to filter through now because that's what the UFC, and they're the best at it. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
But they don't have the same mindset.
Yep.
But I think with the UFC, like Joe Rogan's podcast has boosted not only jiu-jitsu in all over the world. Like, more people are going to jiu-jitsu classes because of Joe Rogan's podcast. The UFC's killing it, not just because of Joe Rogan's podcast, but more people are going in there. That's played a massive role in my life, particularly. Listening to his podcast got me into stand-up, which got me into YouTube, which got me right here, right now. Like, it's playing a massive role. And even with Joe at the moment, there's this thing going on about Bernie Sanders spoke about, came out and said that, Joe Rogan's said on his podcast, he'd vote for Bernie. And people are like, Joe is literally a better person to have on your side than the New York Times. Like, isn't that crazy? This digital age, like someone who's just, episode 1 was him with Brian Redband in Joe's house.
Yeah.
And now he's having hundreds of millions of people listen every single year. It's just, it's a beautiful time for combat sports and for comedy and for YouTube and all that type of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But it's a great thing. And I just think that, like with the UFC in general, I love what they do. I love the way that they, as you said, bring the fighters on and they show like embedded, all that type of stuff behind the scenes. And it gives you a reason to like someone. Like with Conor McGregor, beating Cowboy last week in something like, what was it, 40 seconds, something like that, catching him pretty early with a head kick and the shoulders and, breaking his nose within 3 strikes and all that type of stuff. Were you watching the fight?
Oh, mate.
How can you not? I sat there for 5 hours. I sat there with my old man watching. He's not a UFC, he doesn't follow the sport or anything like that. And he's who's all these other people? I'm here to see McGregor and this Cowboy fella, and it's over in 40 seconds. He loved it, but he couldn't believe that it was all over in 40 seconds. But that's the sport.
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen.
And then to Cowboy to come into the fight with so many records, and then for Conor to be the one that head kick him. It's like, whoa, I did not see that coming.
And that's what he wanted. He was thinking about that the whole time. I caught Cowboy at his own game. Because that's what I was terrified of. I was before the fight. I'm a massive Conor McGregor fan. I got all these bloody memorabilia and T-shirts and shit. And all I was terrified about was that head kick coming from Cowboy. And I was just like, I can just see McGregor laying on the canvas. I was like, I can't deal with that. I didn't even go to the pub to watch it. I had to watch it. I bought it at home. All right, I didn't even illegally stream it. I bought the fucking pay-per-view because I knew he was getting a cut. And I watched it freaking out, just like, oh fuck, I can't see it. But madness.
It was awesome. It was so cool. And then the rest of the day, I was with my wife, and then even I was looking at her going, I think we witnessed something very special today, because that was crazy. I was buzzing all day, and I like Cowboy too. And just to see him go down, it's like, sucks for Cowboy, but that was special.
It was the resurgence of McGregor. He had to win.
Yeah.
If he loses that, what does he do? He can't call someone out.
And then we were talking about Tony Robinson, the entrepreneur gentleman in the cage with him as well. And then Angie's going, who contacted who, I wonder? Do you reckon Tony reached out and asked him to give him a little bit of motivational stuff, or do you think Conor reached out to him?
I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder. I reckon Tony would have reached out because he would have known that mate, what are you doing? You're throwing everything away. You're the other man. If you just focus on what you're doing, you can be anything you want to be. But what you're doing now, come on, slap yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Punching on men in the pub isn't definitely a no-no.
But he's in a bad mindset. He's got that mindset of like, he's not in a camp at the moment, so he's off at the pub doing whatever, fucking around. He was saying after the fight that, instead of turning up for practice at 3:00, he was going, hey, everyone get to the gym in 30 minutes. I want everyone there. We're going to train.
Yep.
And you take away that control over your life. I think for a lot of people that's necessary to have that rhythm, And I think probably for McGregor it is as well. And he was talking about, just as you were before, about the match fitness. He was having, 3 fights in 3 years?
Yeah.
For someone like him who's come from like Cage Warriors to the UFC, he's fighting every 2-3 months.
Yep.
Maybe every 6 months, whatever. But he's in there. He's in the moment. He's camp to camp. And obviously, he only lost 2 fights. One was a boxing fight against the arguably best boxer we've seen in the last 50 years. But
and Khabib's not bad either.
Undefeated, 27 wins? Jesus Christ.
I think he's like 35 wins or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. But that hunger that he had all the way out through the Cage Warriors, all the way through those first half a dozen UFC fights, and then just, I suppose, having that money and, what's that saying about waking up in silk sheets?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you got what's for breakfast, and when life's so easy, it's pretty hard to get up in the morning and force yourself to go out for a run when it's like, man.
Yeah, he's got Bentleys.
But now he's back.
He's back.
He's back.
I'm pumped by that, to see that, and I think Dana White might have had a stiffy for about 4 days after that. He was just like, I can't believe it. I'm absolutely pumped. And I am too. I'm just pumped for the sport. I think it's
good
great
too, because he wants a quick turnaround too. He wants to get back there as soon as he can as well, get back in the cage and keep dominating. So it'd be interesting to see who's next, because there's a lot of guys in that weight division that are all putting their hand up. It's such a smorgasbord of amazing fights in the future. It's going to be.
Who do you think will fight next? Is it Masvidal?
I don't know. The Nate Diaz trilogy would be amazing. That would blow figures out the water. The Masvidal fight is another one where it's like, holy shit.
2 people who can talk.
And then and Masvidal is big, and he can back it up, and he's angry, and he's a scary guy, and that'd be a great fight. And then of course you got the Usman fight as well for the belt. So yeah, there's so many variables. It's a really exciting time to be a fight fan.
Absolutely, it is.
So no, it's very cool.
No, I'm pumped for it. Do you wish that Muay Thai had the time in the spotlight that the MMA in general has?
I get asked this. Wouldn't you? Did you ever feel that you had to go to MMA? But as much as I'm a fan, as much as I buy all the pay-per-views and everything else, I have so much history in what I've done in Thailand, being the first Aussie to make a footprint fighting in the big stadiums, being the first Aussie to fight in the stadiums and the King's birthdays, being the first Westerner to do a lot of things also. And I was like the first Westerner to stay in Thailand full time. So usually people go for a month, have a training camp, come home and have a fight or vice versa. But to stay there like 4 years full time, even my trainers were saying, you're the first. You've raised the bar. So we dare say it won't be long before people are following your footsteps. And now people are going to Thailand 2, 3, 4 years at a time as well. So I can't help but feel proud.
Yeah.
Proud to show that we can do it. There's Thais are scary as shit, but if you're willing to sacrifice and become one of them, you too can be awesome. And you might not get rich, but you'll have priceless memories.
Yeah. And what was Thailand like when you went over there at 19?
Brilliant. So say there's a language barrier because I was in Bangkok and not many people could speak English. And then anytime I needed something, like, they pretty much grab you by the hand, take you to wherever you had to go, or if you needed something, they'd jump on the back of my bike, they'd take you there. If you needed a shirt, here, take my shirt. It's like, holy shit. And then once I started fighting on TV, I'd be running down the road by myself and people would flash their lights and beep their horns. So after 4 years imagine you go into a supermarket and you're the only white guy in the whole supermarket. You sort of get used to being that guy.
Yeah.
And then when you come back to Australia and then everyone looks the same, it's like, I like all the eyes looking at me. I like the kids tugging their shirt, pointing at me because they've never seen a Westerner before. Yeah. And then when you get back home and you just blend in with everyone else, it's like, something's missing.
Yeah.
I miss, and then because I can speak Thai too, when I speak to people, you just watch their reaction. And when you speak English to another Aussie, they're like, eh. Yeah. But when you're making when you're trying to do your best to be one of them, it's just a different buzz. So and then so I was telling the boys as well, when I was younger, the most popular music CD at the time. So I used to buy the CD, I put it in my CD player, and then I get a notepad and pen, and I press play, then pause, and then I write everything in English, and then I'd create my own karaoke's out of the thing. So then I'd memorize the whole CDs, and then we'd go to karaoke bars where I'd be the only Westerner in the club again, and I put my request in. And then like, what? And then no one be on the dance floor. And then I start the song. Sing guilty, okay, and then all of a sudden one person will come out, two people, and next minute the dance floor is full and everyone's dancing away and I'm singing Thai and it's like, this is fucking crazy. And then the song would finish and the guy on the you know any more songs? Mate, I know the whole album. He's going, can you do any more? Fucking oath again. And then, I'll do like 4 or 5 songs in a row and everyone's like having partying and yahooing and I'm singing some language. I have no idea now I know what I'm saying. But back then I was pretty much guessing. But it was just so cool to be accepted. You try and then they thank you for, I might not have said everything perfect, but because I was having a crack, everyone's like, good,
they give you respect for trying, at least trying.
Having a go.
Yeah, and I guess respect in Thailand is the one of the biggest things.
Oh, yeah. So
for those people.
I learned very fast that they're the nicest, craziest, best people until you make them mad. Do not make them mad because so when it comes to angry Thais, they don't do this. They pick up. They get rather stabby. Because they're only little too, so why are they going to fight someone your size for when they can just iron bar you? Yeah, and then they fight in packs too, so there's nothing, long as they win. Yeah, there's no rules.
Win at all costs.
Yeah, on Muay Thai and everything else, there's rules and they're very. But when it comes to fisticuffs on the street,
and so
I've even seen girls. One girl got into a fight and then she had a girl. She took her down, sat on her back, and then she was just banging her head onto the gutter.
Fuck.
I go, whoa, that's pretty heavy. You shouldn't be laying there.
That happens in Western Sydney quite a bit. I think it's not just in Thailand. So when you went over there, you were sleeping on the floor, you were training every day. Were you working as well, or was it just
live off my prize money?
Right.
So the camp that I was accepted to in Thailand, the superstar of the camp, he picked me up from my old camp, took me to the new camp, and he showed me around the camp and said, this is where you'll be sleeping. And it was a wooden floor, and I was side by side next to 10 other boxes. So I thought, I'll go near the wall. So that way I've only got one person to worry about instead of having two people either side of me. So then you only get the one arm or the one leg. It's like, get off. And then, so we'd sleep on the floor, and then we wake up about 5:30. We'd brush our teeth. We'd run. We'd train for 3 hours. We'd come back, we'd have breakfast, shower, breakfast. You're usually ordered to have a little bit of a kip in the afternoon because you've put in such a big effort in the morning. Refresh, get recharged for the afternoon session. Then afternoons was about another 3.5, 4 hours again. And that was, sometimes it was 6 days a week. Sometimes the training would go through these phases where it's like 7 days. And that was terrible because there's no chance for your body to recover. And you train Sunday, and then when Monday hits, you're just devastated because you know how sore your body is and there's no time to recover again. But it was, so where I lived, instead of having a normal toilet, we had a porcelain little hole where it had little foot pegs. So, and then, I don't know if the TV, so you got to squat over this hole, and then there's no toilet paper. So we had this big basin with a plastic scoop in there. So you have to pour water into your hand to wipe your bum.
Yep.
And then you stand on side the basin, and you use the container to lather up, and then you rinse up, and then you wash off, and all the water runs out the hole. And then for when you brush your teeth, you get the same, and you pour the water into your hand.
Nice.
And then and then you're sharing that same plastic container with 10 other people that are all sharing, pooping, brushing their teeth, pooping, brushing, sharing. It's just like how I didn't get sick at the time.
That's incredible.
But that's at the first it's like, oh my God, how are we going to do it? But then after a couple of weeks, it's just life. It's just normal.
Well, the Romans were doing the similar thing. They would have they would have a seat, and there would be 15 people in all the seats, all having a shit, and you'd be scooping down the same water you're shitting in, dodging the other shits to wipe. That is dangerous.
And then when it was time to eat, we'd have maybe 4 or 5 different dishes in the center, and then you sit on the wooden floor cross-legged, and then you have your plate on the floor. So you lean over your legs, and then you, instead of me going bah, 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 I go one teaspoon at a time, and everyone gets a plate of rice, and everyone say 1 teaspoon, and then it's a community. You can't be a pig. You've got to share evenly. You're living with these guys, you're eating, you're showering, you're training, and then they become your brothers. So what happens? So let's say if you got a family of 4 or 5 kids and you got no money and you're just surviving, they'll bring one of the little kids to the camp, they'll knock on the gate, and then we'll answer. The owner of the camp will open up, and then the parents will say, oh look, we've got little Johnny here, will you accept him into the camp? And then the trainer will look him up and down, they'll feel his little arms and look, all right. So the little kid the parents will pass him his bag, and then the parents, they have a little, see you later, and he might not see his parents for the next 10 years. And he from that moment forward, he becomes property of the camp. And then every time he fights, he might make $20. And then he might have to fight 3 or 4 times a week until he gets into his later teens where he starts punching with enough power that he's doing damage. But while he's younger, you can get away with fighting 3 or 4 times. And then if it's a good camp, they'll save the money, and then the kid will buy his own school clothes and books and everything. So he'll pay for his own education. It's crazy. It's so crazy. And you see these little kids just go from kids to men because they've got no parents. All of a sudden, they're pretty much turned to orphans, and the gym becomes their new family. So the first couple of nights, the kid will just cry and bawl his eyes out because where's my parents? And all of a sudden it's like, mate, we're your family now. And then, wow. I've seen it a few times where the kids just rock up, and then all of a sudden they're just part of the crew. And then,
is there many people you've caught up with going back to Thailand that you knew when they were young kids coming up?
Yeah, my last time I was there was 2010, so I haven't been back for 10 years. But so many of the kids. Fighting is more than just fighting, because we do it for fun. They do it to survive. They do it to make money. They do it so their parents have a little bit of money in the bank, and some of them hate it. They just despise it. They only do it because it's a form of income. So it's a very tough gig. But as I was saying, on the negative side, if you're a girl, so if you're a boy, 9 times out of 10 you'll be a boxer. For a girl, unfortunately, they have to do the other thing where they have to sell their body to try and, same deal. They'll probably give half to their parents. So it's much better to be a boy than be a boxer than the other side. But yeah, definitely you get educated very fast on. We got it pretty good in Australia. We don't sometimes we don't know how lucky we are that if like life's not going to plan, at least we've got the dole, at least we've got the pension after we retire, or we've got this and that. Over there, there's no plan B. So then you got to rely on parents. If you've got good parents, that'll survive. And then once the parents get old, there's no pension. So then the parents usually move in with the kids, and they survive being family. So I think that's what we're lucky in the Western culture. We don't have that same tight knit. Where all right, you're doing it tough. Good luck. Whereas over there, we need each other. Otherwise, we're all going to perish. So in that respect, you see how strong the families are compared to how...
The culture of sharing.
Yeah, exactly.
I was talking to Kurt Fernley, the Paralympian, about he crawled the Kokoda Trail a number of years ago, and like a massive feat.
I remember it.
It was insane, crazy thing to do. But he said when he was in PNG, he would get, one of the people on his camp gave thongs to some of the tribes people. And they are so into sharing there that instead of just wearing both thongs, one person would be wearing one thong, another person would be wearing the other thong, and then they'd swap the next day. Someone else would have the thongs on, one person would have the hat, the next guy would have the hat. Like these ideas that something as simple as a pair of thongs is the most exciting thing that these people may have seen in a month.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm guilty of it a lot of the time, and I guess most people are having this idea that, you know, oh, woe is me, or this is tough, or we've got to pay the bill, or whatever. Yep. But it pales in comparison to some of the lives that people are living, whether it's in Papua New Guinea or in Thailand or in these places that are in these low areas where, you know, money is scarce, food is scarce, health is scarce, the future is scarce. And thankfully for, as you said, you know, some of these young guys, unfortunately for the young ladies, obviously that's a horrible thing, but fortunately for the young guys, they have fighting to help them get out of it.
Even some of the pad holders, they're amazing, never complain, always smiling. And then one day, one of the gentlemen said, "Hey, you want to come over to home to pick something up?" And I went over to his place, and it was literally it was a corrugated box. It was like a dog kennel, but not in the whole time that I knew him, not once he ever said, "Oh, geez, I'm doing it tough." You just think he was the happiest guy you've ever met, and then you went to his place, and it was just enough from him to lay down so his head and his feet didn't touch the opposite walls. It was just, and then same deal, wooden floor. And you can imagine Thailand, corrugated iron as your walls. Yeah. And it's like, but yeah, and like I said, not one city, sucks. It's like, fuck, you're the happiest bloke I know. And why? You're so happy because you got it pretty tough.
What is that?
Why? I think it's just, I don't know. You know what it is? I think the richer people are, like in Australia, we're very lucky to be very comfortable, and we complain when those people have absolutely nothing, but they see the positivity in the little things. I've got enough food in my tummy. I've got the roof. It's corrugated iron, but still roof. Yeah. I'm not outside. I'm not getting bitten by dogs because I've got my little shed. And it's like, fuck, that's crazy. But yeah, so when I was 2007, I was a monk for 7 days in Thailand. My Thai sponsor in Australia, his 2 sons were going over, and then every Thai male is a monk once in a lifetime, whether it be a week, a month, 2 months, whatever. So his boys were going over to be monks for 7 days. He said gave me a call. He said, "Hey, my boys are going over to do the be monks, get ordained. What do you reckon?" So he said, "You've done Thai boxing, you speak Thai, you've lived everything like a Thai. The only thing you haven't done is the monk. What do you reckon?" So, mate, I'd love to. That'd be amazing. That'd be so cool. So packed my stuff, went to Thailand. We had the big ordain, got my eyebrows, my head shaved, give them everything, all my possessions taken away, give them my robe. And then we lived in the temple. And then every morning we'd walk a block with a bowl and a lid. And then people would be on the side of the road with giving offerings. And if we didn't get any offerings, we didn't eat that day. But sure enough, every morning there'd be like at least a dozen people out there, and they put their rice and a little bit of meat, whatever else in our little bowl. And then they kneel down, and we'd say a chant. And that little chant was hopefully enough to give them good karma for whether it be that day or that week or whatever they need. And the crazy part was we had one blind lady that was on this walk every morning. Every morning she was there without fail. And she'd have her sister lead her out to us. and she'd hold her hand and she'd put the rice into our bowl, and you just see how important it was. Just even though it was only a chant and only words, for her it was hopefully an opportunity for her so that she could hopefully see, maybe not this life but the next life. But it just makes you appreciate just the little things we have. So I learned that if I had food in my tummy and a roof over my head, all my possessions were taken away, but I was warm and I was full. And the little things that were annoying me before or aggravating me before, they were the last of my worries. All of a sudden, it's like all that inside pressure that I was putting upon myself. It's like, I'm okay. Life's good. Life's good. As long as I got some too, I'm sweet. So yeah, it was definitely a very educational 7 days to appreciate everything. So,
what does a day look like as a monk? What do you?
So we wake up in the morning about 5. We walk our lap. When we get back, we sit with the main monk, and we do Buddha studies twice a day. So we do it about 9 o'clock, and we have something to eat again. We're not allowed to eat after 12. So you probably have feed about 7 and about 11. Then after 12, you're not allowed to chew until the next sunrise. And then we do Buddha studies in the morning and Buddha studies in the afternoon. And then we do all our regular chants morning and night. And then the head monk would just would sit down and he'd explain just the little things about just life in general. Say you have one mum and dad, so you might have a wife, but there's no reason why she can't leave you tomorrow. Whereas your parents, you could do the worst of the worst, but you can guarantee, 9 times out of 10, you can guarantee that your mum and dad will always be the ones that come and visit you in jail because they got that unconditional love for their children. Whereas a missus, she'll love you today while everything's going right, and as soon as something happens, like, meh, later. And then, and they, instead of 10 commandments, they only have 5. So just your basic, don't kill, don't steal, don't do drugs, don't cheat on your missus. That's one other one. But so the Thai New Year. So we're 2020 in Thailand. They're 2,500 and something. So they believe Buddha is 500 years older than Jesus,
right?
And they still run with the Buddha calendar instead of the Jesus calendar. And then they believe that the Buddha made up all the commandments and the rules and everything else. And then when Christianity came along, they said, we're liking those rules. We reckon we can make a couple little tweaks, and then but since that's going so well, we'll just run with that, and we'll just do our own little one, and we'll call it our version. And then it's just bizarre. It's just how you think you know what's going on, and all of a sudden you got someone saying, no, we've been doing this for 500 years longer than you.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, that's hectic. And then Buddha's a real dude too. He's a real guy. He's not some mythical guy that was born from a virgin. He's just he was a rich prince that lived in a kingdom, but he never left the palace gates. So his whole life, everyone's like, oh, everyone's good, everyone's healthy, everyone's got money, there's no poverty. And then one day, just something happened, and he felt like his whole life was a lie. So he got dressed up and he escaped the royal palace. And that was the first time that he'd seen famine and real life. And he was so in shock that his whole life was just been just crazy, that he decided to go out into the forest and sit under a tree and meditate for weeks on end without any food or water, and just put himself into a trance. And that's when he came to the realization, okay, we can do this, this, and this to make me a better person. What's I'm going to do? And so it's so more realistic and so more common sense than all the other stuff, I guess. It's hard to believe sometimes about the talking snakes, but when you got a real dude that has, you can sort of a little bit understand that a little bit more better than the mythical sort of what.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I think often the message that comes from religion is it helps people live their lives.
Oh, for sure.
And I guess even with Christianity or Catholicism or whatever you want to run, people didn't have the police didn't have the ability to control all the people, so why shouldn't I kill someone? Well, God doesn't want you to.
Yeah.
And he will smite you, And I guess that's a fair way to control the group. But living as a monk is an incredible tale. I've never heard any of these things about you. I think you need a podcast. You need to be putting YouTube videos out or doing something.
It was so surreal. It was so crazy. It was so cool. It was so So I have this thing where I have to go to the toilet a lot in the middle of the night, and then the worst part was where our little sleeping quarters was. right across here was the cremation chimney where they put the dead bodies in to burn them up. So every time I wanted to go to the wee, it's like, I don't want to go to a wee. I don't want to go to a wee because I don't like seeing ghosts. The Thais have this big fascination with ghosts and afterlife, and because they believe it so much, I believe that the ghosts have more of a tendency of showing themselves because, hey, I'm here. And then, I've had a few different scenarios where I've seen different things that weren't probably real. I thought they were real, but then afterwards, I seen a gentleman that would come into our room. I woke up at night and I just happened to open my eyes. Now there's this body standing right at our door, and it was our superstar of the camp's brother. And then he looked at me and I looked at him, and then he just turned around and walked down the stairs, and I heard the stairs going. The next morning I seen the superstar sing to him and say, hey, your brother was here last night. No, he's not. He's in Chiang Mai, 12-hour drive away. It's impossible. And he said, watch this. Hey, where were you last night? I was at home in Chiang Mai. Okay. Well, there you go. So, mate, I like this top of my hand off. I guarantee you he was there 100%. And then just get the heebie-jeebies knowing that. Holy shit. And every Thai's got a ghost story. There are multiple ghost stories. So they had this thing called a P-Um. So my first week I was living there, I had this dream, and it was so real. And I woke up, I told the Thais, oh man, I seen, and then they said, funny dream, really real. And then the next night I had another one that was really real, and all of a sudden I get this pressure put on my chest, and then it feels like someone's holding you down, and you feel like you're awake, but you can't. You're awake, but you're not awake, and you want to try and wake up the person beside you so they can wake you up. And then after about, it feels like forever, eventually the pressure comes off and you wake up and say, what was that? So the next morning I went and told the Thais, I had the craziest dream. It felt like I was getting held to the ground. I said, oh, that's just the PM. That's just the ghost just holding you down in your sleep. So if the ghost doesn't like you, what the ghost does, he sits on your chest, and then if he really doesn't like you, he'll just put his hand over your nose and mouth and suffocate you so you die in your sleep.
Fuck.
Oh, that's not good. That's a bit rough.
Because Zach, I'll bring you in here. You had a similar thing going on with, what is it called? Sleep paralysis.
Well, that's not the paralysis. They reckon it's a ghost sitting on your chest.
Yeah.
So Zach,
I used to have, I don't know, it was in it's like a really old building and that, but I'd always see this guy standing in the middle of in the corner. But it was just like a black figure, like it was just outside.
Racist.
But like, I don't know, I felt like I had my eyes open, I'd be looking at it and I could see it and that. But then there'd be other times again, like where it'd like be standing at the foot of the bed or it'd jump up on the bed.
And you get the pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get hit about 2 or 3 times a week for 4 years.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it wasn't like a one-off.
Do you sleep on your back?
I sleep on my back, yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it's much more common in people who sleep on their back. So I had it once, and then I became a shoulder sleeper since then.
They told me if you don't want to get done, sleep on your tummy. It's like, but it's so uncomfortable, especially on a wooden floor. So then,
I didn't even think about that.
Then you roll back over, and then it's like, wow. Yeah, I was getting done in the daytime too, because we'd train in the morning, have breakfast, have a little sleep in the day, and it's like, bah. And then the same again, trying to wake anyone up that can wake me up. And then it's like, day or night, I was getting got all the time.
And it's a terrifying thing.
Terrifying.
Every time.
So friggin' terrifying. So then we bought a Thai trainer back to Australia in 1996. I bought my trainer, and I was going to have this big fight. And then one night he's got his necklace and his Buddha image. And he's, what are you doing? I said, just making sure no ghosts. We're in Australia. What are you doing? So I've gone back to my room and I've gone back to sleep. And it was one of those ones where I didn't think I was asleep. And then I heard my door open. And I thought someone was coming in just to see what was going on, and I could hear footsteps, thinking they were going to get, next minute, and then I couldn't quite open my eyes, but I could hear someone breathing, someone actually struggling to hold me down, and eventually I just got my eye open, and there was no one there, but I could still hear the breathing, and then eventually I felt the weight come off and as I got up, I said, yep, I'm done. So I got my blanket, got my pillow, and then I slept on the floor of my trainer's room for, I think about 2 weeks. I was petrified to sleep by myself after that because, it was terrifying, especially because I could hear it too.
Yeah.
So my ghost stories are, it's one of those ones. I'm better now. I'm not saying Actually, I mentioned this on Joe Rogan, and then everyone, I got smashed on the social media. You believe in ghosts? It's like, I do now after being held down. So of course I do. But everyone thinks, you're so immature, as if ghosts are real. It's like, I'm just telling you what I went through. I'm not making it up.
Who's to say there's no it's like with religion. There's no evidence to say it's not real. There's no evidence to say it is real.
Yeah.
It's like it's your personal sort of experience.
Yeah.
I was going to say to you, we've done one, Zach and I and Connor. We did a ghost hunt, and we did it for the podcast, and we did like a big shoot. It was like a little mini doco sort of thing. We went and tried to find ghosts at this it was a museum, and we're going on another one in the Gold Coast. I know there's a certain Wayne Parr that lives there.
Oh, Jesus.
Would you like to come along for one of those, or is that a bit out of the...
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I've had so many terrifying experiences. What else could go wrong? Sounds like a great idea. No, for sure. That'd be fun. That'd be cool.
All right. Well, what's next for you? You're going to get your operation done soon, or you?
Yeah, at this stage, I still got to get an updated MRI because I got the last MRI 7 weeks before the fight, and then I worked out. I ran another probably 600 kilometers on that hip after the MRI. So, even though I'm not supposed to, I still probably run once or twice a week just because I really like running and I don't want to get fat. And but yeah, I run, and then like I was saying, 10 minutes after I get the waves of pain again. So I shouldn't run, but yeah. And then we're lucky after Singapore. He'll have his fight, and then Joe Rogan. I got Joe Rogan hopefully in March. So
beautiful. Very
excited to see Joe again and have a chat. And now that I'm retired, it'd be cool to see what opportunities present themselves. I think Joe's the man that is very influential with, can open up a lot of doors.
Yeah.
So hopefully when people hear my where I'm retired.
Man, you got so many cool stories. You should be doing podcasts, releasing videos. I know so many people when I mention your name, their eyes light up, their ears prick. They go, right, I want to hear what this bloke has to say.
That's so cool.
And thank you for coming on the show. And it's great to see you again,
absolute pleasure. So people don't know. I only know this gentleman because of my daughter. She was such a big fan, and she goes, "You got to check out Isaac's page." And then, ever since. And then went to your show, and then, we've been buddies ever since. So I really appreciate not only being here, but just being your mate. It's so cool. It's so cool.
It's fantastic. And we do have the footage here. There is some fight footage between you and I. And, I don't want to say I was taking it easy.
Yeah.
But you're a terrifying man to stand across because you were, and I'll get Connor to play it now as I'm talking, but nice. You slowed it down. You put the what's the song? Bloody Hello Darkness, my own friend, which we can't play on YouTube because, as we were saying before, like with Joe Rogan, he can't put anything on YouTube without copyright strikes. Yeah. But you were slowing everything down. You were throwing these knees in and just missing me, but perfect timing on your part, of course. And I think the only thing you really caught me with was an backwards up fist. What would you call that?
I call that the Three Stooges punch.
Caught me on the edge of the lip. I walked out with a bleeding lip, and that was my experience, my last experience at your beautiful gym there. And if anyone wants to get in contact with you, to train, to follow you, look down the barrel of that camera right there and let them know.
John Wayne Parr, Instagram, Facebook. I tend to fill up my social media with either jokes or fight content. And family, because I love my family, but just funny stuff. My life's too short not to have fun. So if we can have a giggle every day, then you're doing something right.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that did the first podcast for the year. Holy dooly, Ruben Wiki, what a show. Yeah. That was fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy the show, make sure you subscribe. Check us out on iTunes and Spotify as well. That's where it's at. And we're back next week with another fantastic episode. And we're gonna have John we're gonna do a ghost episode. It's all gonna happen, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you stick around for that. I'm in Melbourne for the Comedy Festival coming up in only a month and a bit, Zachariah. Holy dooly. Connor, is there anything else that I need to do?
That's it, mate.
That's Clips. It. What?
Clips.
The Butterfield Effect Clips channel. Holy dooly, there's a whole channel with all these little clips on here. If you can't digest this entire episode in one go, you can check out the Clips channel, and they're just little bites if you're on a bit of a diet. So ladies and gentlemen, peace in the Middle East, me dick stinks. Be a good motherfucker. And I'll see you all very soon. Anything else, John?
I'm planning on growing a beard for my penis.
Goodbye.